Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Brothas-in-law. If you're new to this channel, on here we discuss police-involved incidents that occur around the country, and Mike and I give our analysis on how the officers respond or carry out their duties in these shooting situations. We also take a look at the citizens, see if they follow our acronym that we came up with, which is stay calm, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on, where the situation had turned out differently. Now, we know that a lot of times keyboard warriors and these hate the police type individuals are not going to agree with us by any means uh, of mine, but we're just giving you our points of view, what we would do had we rode up on that scene as officers. Speaking of which, I'm a former Virginia State Trooper. I'm also a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. And my co-host tonight is Mr. Michael Bradley. What it up? What up? What up?
What's going on? We got a good one lined up. I'm Mike Bradley. I'm a retired police officer, 26 years in Northern California. I'm also a 6-year Army veteran, and we got a good video lined up for you today. This is a video that you could see in several places on YouTube or anywhere else. So if you want to watch the video without commentary, you can do that on your own. I'm sure everybody has seen it by now, about the shooting of the Air Force guy, where the officer in Okaloosa County, I think it was, Corey, ended up shooting this guy who answered the door with a gun in his hand. Appreciate everybody joining us. Jesus loves you. I see you on here, Tone. I see you on here. Let's see. Badass 93 Stang. I see you on here. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one before. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We gonna get started,
Yeah, like always, before we do, if you're new checking us out for the very first time, and you're gonna like this content of this type of show we're doing tonight, please go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, too, if you want to help support our channel to grow it and get our message out, staying calm, which stands for comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. Please head on over to our merch shop, grab your very nice Brothas-in-law t-shirt. Podcast t-shirt, help support us. Like I said, our channel, get the message of staying calm, which stands for comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. We greatly appreciate it, guys. It's very important that we get this message out to the youth in particular. So yeah, without further ado, this is graphic. It's not for the faint. So if you got a weak stomach, whatever, you might want to turn it for just a few minutes and then jump back on. But it is graphic. So Mike, go ahead.
Like I said, this was a situation that I myself was in, had a call similar to this, where the guy answered the door with a gun in his hand. The big difference between this incident and the incident that I had is I didn't draw my firearm. I didn't even have a chance to draw my firearm, first of all, because it happened so fast. And luckily for me, the guy didn't raise his gun up and shoot me. You know what I'm saying? In my situation, I felt what I did, my reaction to seeing him open the door with a gun was I jumped back for cover. Me and my partner both. We luckily had cover right behind us, so we retreated to cover and drew our weapon after we got behind cover and started making commands to the guy with the gun. The guy was drunk. He had a gun in his hand. It didn't take but a second for him to raise his arm up and shoot if that's what he wanted to do. And in my case, I too was responding to a disturbance call. It wasn't necessarily reported as a domestic violence disturbance call, but it was a disturbance call. Okay. This, as we all know, is a similar situation that happened not too long ago. And we're going to show you the body camera of what happened. And we're going to start it off by a little bit of the report that the sheriff gave to start the investigation. Yeah, we will stop this vehicle at certain points incrementally throughout the vehicle because I want to show you or tell you, explain to you what I would be thinking in this type of situation. All right, here we go.
Now, before we play this video, all of us understand what we're about to see. And for those of you that are live streaming and don't want to watch this event because it's tragic, then I suggest you just look away for about 4.5 minutes. That's about how long it's going to take once we roll the video. But those of you that are live streaming, it's going to be on here. And after this, we will share a link to the video. But out of respect for you, whoever doesn't want to see it again, it will take about 4.5 minutes. You will see the things that I just mentioned on the video that corroborate what I've just said. Go ahead.
What's going on? I'm not sure. I just was told to let her know when you guys come back, so I'm gonna give her a call. So there was some fight going on or something? I was not ready for that. Are they fighting or something? Okay. Okay, we're scored.
And I was hearing someone yelling, stupid people are going they go after it, but I wasn't sure where it came from. And I didn't want to see it.
Which room is it?
1401. The girl who was here, the one I called, she was like saying that it sounded like saying really like
So we're saying number 4 now. Okay. We sat there and directed that we were some.
it's not, you're gonna go for the first guy, it's gonna be on the second.
Yes.
Okay, let me pause it for a minute, Corey, right here. So it sounds like this deputy was responding to a report of a domestic violence call involving a couple and in apartment 1401. Okay. So right out the gate, if I get that call, I'm thinking, okay, this is a higher level call because we've always said domestic violence calls can be very dangerous. Everybody's emotions are heightened, and officers can get killed in domestic violence call if they're not careful and doing things tactically. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm thinking at this case. What do you think, Corey, at this point?
100%. You know, in any type of situation, when you're going to a residence, when you get a call like that, and you hear them still trying to piece everything together, all right, and it depends on what news agency you watch. Here again, there's some that never showed this whole part of the video. They take you straight to saying, "Oh, he went to the wrong place," whatever, and goes right into the shooting. Now this, oh, okay, now I can see where it could be some confusion going on, but I didn't know there was a lady that walked and was telling her or telling the officer everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And they gave the apartment number to go to, and he repeated it back. So I don't think there was no, unless she mistakenly gave him the wrong apartment number, and he repeated it back to her. So as he knows right now, he, in his mind, as the officer, I'm going based on the information I'm just giving, I'm going to the right place.
Yeah, I agree. That whole thing about he went to the wrong apartment, obviously that's not the case. He went to the right apartment. In his mind, and in my mind too, I'm going to assume that there's a couple up there who's involved in a domestic violence situation. It sounds like it may have gotten physical. I'm already going there with the mindset of I'm probably going to have to arrest someone. So that is my mindset at this point in the call. The only thing I disagree with, Corey, is I would have waited for cover unit before making contact at the door. I'm not going to go to a domestic violence call by myself. I'm going to wait for a cover. Now I know it. We don't know how long his cover will take to get there, but as an officer safety thing, that's the only thing I can see up to this point is I'm not going up there by myself. I'm going to wait for a cover unit.
Yeah, and in a lot of cases too, we always try to use the 2-man rule when you're going, if it's serving a warrant or you're going to any type of residence, you always want to go with another, in my case, trooper. But it always doesn't work out that way. You may have no choice but to go by yourself. So
yeah, I understand. And folks, the reason why we're explaining this to you is we want to set this up and give you an idea of what an officer's mind frame would be at this point. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going up here.
A reasonable officer.
Right. A reasonable officer. This is what would be in my mind. Now, she said the girl, the other half, the female half, called the police or called someone initially, which caused the police to be called. That's what I understood. And she made an indication that things were getting bad, right? Mm-hmm. And she also went on to explain an incident that happened 2 weeks ago that sounded physical. Now, she should have called the police then too, but that gives you an idea of what kind of activity has been going on in this apartment in addition to this call. What do you say, Corey?
No, you're 100%, man. You're 100%. We keep it rolling. I'm gonna save my comments.
All right, here we go. So he's listening to see if he can hear anything going on inside. Common approach for police officers. He steps out of the front of the doorway real quick. The reason why he steps to the side, folks, is when you stand in a doorway, that's called, to officers, that's called a fatal funnel. Okay. So if you open that door, I'm right there in front of you. Now, sometimes you don't have a choice. You have to stand there because ain't nowhere else for you to stand. But that's why most officers move to the side like this.
Yeah, it's not the high, so you can't tell who's out there. That definitely is a officer safety issue, because there are countless of videos out there or incidents where you go to serve a search warrant, or you go to for any reason going to somebody's door. And that's one thing that always used to scare the bejesus out of me too, is going to a door and knocking on it, for that very same reason. Like, you know, you hear all these stories and everything, and you know, but that's a good thing because that keeps your head on a swivel, keeps you alert, so that you don't keep your, you know, you don't drop your guard. But this is why they step to the side like that. It's not to hide from you, so you can't tell who, you know, who they are. It's more of an officer safety thing, because again, we don't know, and this officer does not know at this point. He doesn't know what's on that other side of the door.
Right. Somebody
Right.
could be on the other side to shoot through the door, or
Right.
somebody could open the door and start shooting.
Right.
You don't know. So
you don't know.
It's just a safety tactic. That's all it is. All right, here we go. So it sounds like somebody said something in there, wasn't clear. So he said something like the gun's over there. So he must have either dropped the gun when he got shot,
to show the video,
or he
I know that you all need
he
we look forward
threw it away. Let me show this again. This part again. Let's go through this again. All right, he opens the door. I want you to see how fast this happens. Okay. See, he drew his gun. The guy put his hand up. You could see that here. But the officer had already drawn his gun because he saw this gun that he was holding down at the side of his leg. Now, Corey, this is a tragic situation because it is a gray area, in my opinion. But it's like saying, if you take two officers and put them in this same exact second, they may have two different responses to this. In my case, I didn't have enough time to draw my weapon. You know, I only had time to run behind cover. Okay, the guy opened up the door with a gun in his hand on my situation, and he was drunk. So at any moment, he could have raised that gun up and shot me. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, I was able to get behind cover, and he didn't shoot me. Okay, this is a situation where this officer doesn't look like he has cover to retreat to. Number one,
right,
and number two, man, all he saw was that gun. And he's in a mind frame where I'm addressing a domestic violence situation. Okay. I have details that the female says it got out of hand. Okay. I don't know the mental state of either person involved in this. I don't know if he just shot his girlfriend. Why would he need a gun if he's fighting with his girlfriend? We don't know if he was fighting with his girlfriend, because we weren't able to talk to him. We have to address the gun. But Corey, the reason why this is difficult for me is because it's not about what was in the guy's mind frame with the gun. It's not about him. Mm-hmm. It's about what the mindset of this
officer is. That's correct.
What he perceived, what that was. You know what I'm saying? Some people may not perceive that as a threat. Some people may perceive that as a threat. Folks, you don't have to wait until someone raises a gun up and points it at you before you make a decision to shoot them. Okay? You don't have to wait. If you wait for that, it's too late. You already got shot.
Right. like you said, there was not enough room for him to retreat back or whatever. And when you're in this situation, I'm not trying to wait to figure out what you're going to do with that gun. Now, a lot of critics are out there saying, you know, well, it's his right to carry to have the weapon. 100% correct. You are absolutely correct on that. He is allowed to have a weapon in his possession in his own home. He is totally legally in the right for what he's doing. True, but common sense sometimes has to prevail. If you and I go to the door all the time with my gun. Never go to the front door without my gun. I do.
I'm glad you said that because
hold on. Let me
go ahead.
So with that being said, you have to let common sense prevail. All right. I've had officers come to our house because a lot of them know that I was a former police trooper, so I still talk to them. So when they come to the door, and acknowledge and announce who they are. Hey, hold on, let me put my stuff up.
Okay.
And I put it up, and I come, and then I open the door. I never go to the door, even with the gun on, because I have to think about what that other person is going to think. That may be threatful to them, even though in my mindset, no, is it in a threatening manner? You got that gun in your hand. It don't take from much. I don't have to come all the way up here to shoot you. I can shoot you and just I'm trying to get my hand and just go up a little bit with my gun and shoot you in your lower extremities. I don't have to be fully extended to shoot you. So you got that gun in your hand. Yeah, I don't know what your intentions are. You said, you come into this environment again. What did we just say a few minutes ago? Why do we step to the side of the door? Because we don't know what's on the other side. Now, I'm coming to this call. There's some hostile activity going on in there, allegedly, that I don't know.
So we have to assume that that's the truth. You know, as an officer,
we have to assume
you going into that.
Right. And now you come to the door with a gun. Now I had to put all those pieces to the puzzle together
real quick
to assume, okay, is this guy, did he hurt her? Never mind if we trying to figure out if we're still at the right apartment or not. That's not the case right now. I got a guy coming to the door with a gun. And rightfully so, he can. So my question to everybody is, what if they're both right?
Well, I'm glad you said you addressed the part of coming to the door with a gun. Devil's advocate, I got to play devil's advocate. You know what I'm saying? The way I look at it is, if I have to answer my door with my gun in my hand, I probably shouldn't be answering that door. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm already prepared that there might be danger on the other side of the gun. As a citizen, I'm probably shouldn't be opening that door. If I think there's danger to where I need a gun to address what's on the other side of that door, well, that door is my first line of protection. So I'm not going to open that door if I interpret that there's some danger on the other side. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm talking as a citizen. As a citizen, I wouldn't do that. So it's not about whether or not it's illegal or legal for him to have a gun in his own home. That's not what this is about. No. This is about the mind frame of the officer that's on the other side of the door and whether or not he perceives a threat. Right. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's still a gray area. It's still not clear cut because it's unfair to say I would have made this decision in this split second and this officer should have made a different decision in the split second. You see what I'm saying? This is something you can't really train for. You have a perception in your head, okay, and you react to that perception in a second. I might react differently than you. You know what I'm saying? So folks, I would encourage citizens, especially if you acknowledge that there's police on the other side of the door, whether that's true or not. If they say I'm police, I'm not going to open it, or I'm going to open that door, but I'm not going to have a gun in my hand. I'm not going to do that because I don't want that officer to have a false perception that he needs to shoot me because I'm a threat.
Or at least, have it holstered. Okay, fine. We come in contact with a lot of people, with guns and holster guns, and I've shared my story on here on the traffic stop. One time, the guy had a gun on the front passenger seat, and I asked him not to grab the gun. He explains to me that the gun is not loaded, and I said, okay, that's fine, just don't touch it. He perfectly legal. He had the gun, whatever. I don't touch the gun. Now, what does he do, Mike? He touches the gun, right? Yeah. So would I have been justified to shoot the guy? Even though, it's not loaded. Do I know it's not loaded? No, I don't know it's not loaded. I still have to have the assumption that the gun is still loaded until I can verify that the gun is not loaded. And so he goes and touches it and pulls it up here. Now, the only reason why he didn't get shot is because he had the barrel of the gun pointing the opposite direction of me. And so I quickly reached in and yanked it out of his hands. Right. And no, there was not a round in the chamber, but he did have a magazine in there.
I hear you, badass. I hear you. I see your comment.
But, would I have been justified? And I think about that all the time, man. I'm like, dang, what if he did have it the other way? Would I be able to unholster and shoot him fast enough? Because he had it right here in his chest. So he doesn't, people have that Hollywood conception that you have to be arms fully extended in order to shoot your gun. No, you don't. And that's what, we have to look at here. Just because it's pointed down, you have people say, oh, he's not a threat. Well, how do you know? You don't know that this young man's mindset. Again, the important thing is not really what the mindset of this young airman is. It's the mindset of the officer that you have to look at. And so, yes, it's his constitutional right to come to the door with the gun. Yeah, he can have it in his hand, but you got to be able to deal with the consequences going to come with that, because you can't walk around public like that with your gun out like that in your hand walking down the street, because everybody's not going to think of it as reasonable. Like, that's not reasonable. Reasonable gun owner is not going to walk down the street with his gun out in his hand like that. Is he, Mike?
No. And now, but in this situation, you got to take into consideration the totality of the circumstances of why this officer may have had the mind frame that he was a threat. Okay, he was responding to a report of a domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? We don't know if there was something going on in the apartment or not, but because it was reported as such, we have to assume that until we find otherwise, right?
Right.
So this person could have been a danger in his mind. This guy answering the door with that gun could have been a dangerous person. He was just involved in domestic violence, at least reported to have been involved in the domestic violence. Okay. We don't know if the girl was there or not. Where is she in all this? Okay. Maybe she ended up not being there. Maybe she left. But none of that matters.
None of that matters.
In the officer's mindset, what was he addressing? And if he perceived a threat, was that reasonable? Right. Okay. And Corey, to be honest, was that reasonable? I think shooting this guy or not shooting this guy was a reasonable response. So I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Tone says he was in his house, not public. Yeah, Tone, you keep addressing the house part. He was in his house. He can legally have a gun in his house. But that's not the issue here. Okay. The issue is he opened the door to an officer whose perception was, I'm here for domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? And you could be a prime suspect. Okay. You have to look at what the officer was thinking and whether or not that should have been reasonable.
So what has to be done now? Okay, so this occurred in Florida. So in Florida, there's jury instructions that Florida has. It's called the Florida Standard Jury Instruction in Criminal Cases. And to get a charge out of this, or whether or not to see if this officer was justifiable, one of those instructions says, justifiable use of deadly force. The deputy was justified in using deadly force if he reasonably believed that such a force was necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself. Now, this is where you have to look at how fast this happened. This in the situation that this officer was coming into. Did he reasonably have enough information to believe that his life was in danger or an imminent threat was going to take place or has taken place? And that's what we got to look at. Like, did he feel threatened in any way, or if anybody was going to be hurt, mainly himself? Could he reasonably believe that at this point in time, based on all the information he has and going into this situation? Yeah, he could reasonably assume that, right?
I think so. I mean, yeah, on the officer side, I could see that. You know what I'm saying? But I can also see him not shooting. But by not shooting, is he taking a chance that this guy might shoot him? Yeah, you are taking a chance because you don't know what this guy with a gun in his hand opening the door when he supposedly knows there's police on the other side, and he still opens the door with a gun in his hand. You are taking a risk or a chance of being shot as an officer if you don't take action. You know what I'm saying? But it's still one of those split-second decisions that it ain't no training for that. You just either you gonna do it or you're not gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? It is sad. It is tragic.
No matter how you look at it, it's sad. Yeah. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you don't do this, who knows what this young man would have done with the gun, right? What he had shot, we will never know now, right? Like I said, I think about my situation all the time. Dang, man, what if I, would have got shot? I mean, and this happened literally around the corner from my house. I was on my way home. And so, you have to think like the officer would think in this type of situation. Yeah, you can get into all this, the Second Amendment, but this ain't about the Second Amendment. This ain't about gun laws. No, right? This young man was totally legally within his rights to own a firearm. So it's not about gun laws, right? It's not about race, right? It's about, the information I have, the environment I'm going into. Was the officer justifiable in doing what he did, right?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Did he feel?
Would his perception be what it was because of the totality of the circumstances of his response? He wasn't going to deliver a message. He wasn't going for a loud party call. Okay, he wasn't going for a report of loud music playing. Okay, he was going to report of domestic violence. That's a physical thing where somebody could be getting hurt inside. And the guy opens the door, allegedly knowing the officers were on the other side. He opened the door still with a gun in his hand. I just have a big problem with that. Actually, more than I have with shooting. Now, granted, the shooting is one of those decisions that I think it's a gray area. I mean, I would say
Well, I
Do
mean,
I
you
think
clearly
there's a
got to look.
real
You have to
reason?
look at the letter of the law. You have to look at the letter of the law. You have to look at the charges that would he be facing, manslaughter or murder one or murder two. You have to look at what the law says, and does he meet that criteria? That's what it boils down to. It's not, anybody's personal feelings. It's not about, uh, him brandishing the firearm. That has nothing to do with any of it, because again, he can legally carry in his home. I
Mhm.
mean, he was a licensed gun holder. I don't know. The last I heard, Jesus love you, about the whether or not he had the wrong address or not. I was still, the articles I've been reading were still saying that he was at the wrong, still at the wrong address.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard anything else differently. Again, okay, so does that change anything because he went to the wrong address? No, because
In
he
his
still had
mind, he was in the right
in
address.
his mind, he still had to go off of the information that he had. Remember that young lady
Told him what
told
apartment to
him
go to.
what apartment to go to.
Yeah.
Right now, is that the same apartment he was told in the call for service that he got from dispatch? We don't know.
I don't know.
The-
There is some unanswered questions here. You know
you
what I'm
know,
saying? But I keep thinking about the situation I was in that was a lot like this one. And we keep talking about the mind frame of the officer, what the officer perceived. In my case, it was the same thing, except the guy was drunk and he had a gun in his hand, and he had the gun down by his side in his hand, holding it just like this guy was. In my mind, I'm thinking this guy is getting ready to shoot me, or he could shoot me real fast. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, I was in the thought process of going to cover because I didn't have time to draw. It happened so fast. My perception wasn't quick enough to where I could just draw. Instead of drawing my gun, I retreated. Both me and my partner, we retreated and got behind cover, and then we drew our gun. You know what I'm saying? That was my situation. But in my frame of thought was, this guy is getting ready to shoot me. That's what I was thinking. This guy's getting ready to shoot me. Okay.
now put yourself in a situation now where you didn't have cover to fall back to. Right, this guy has a less than a foot behind him a wall, and then he's up on the fourth floor. So, and to his left, as we're looking at the screen here, to his left is a banister. What are you gonna do? Jump off the side there, four floors up, or yeah, he could take off running to the side, but that's a little long hallway that he had to run down to get around the corner there. So, I mean, your back, literally, his back is up against the wall, and you're coming to the door. Now, thing we don't know is what the young man might have been saying to him. Hey, hold on. What's going on? We don't know. And again, when you're in this type of situation, you don't have time to. Okay, he could be using it as a distraction, like maybe thinking I don't see it, and then come up and pull. You don't know. You don't know what his intention is.
And to be fair, it sounded like that officer drew his gun as the guy started to put his hand up. So his hand wasn't even all the way up.
All
He
the
was
way up,
already
right?
had the gun trained on him when his hand reached that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But not that your hand is letting me know that, hey, wait a minute. I don't know that. You still got a gun in your hand.
You still
know what
got a
I'm
gun in. And a lot of people are, upset too that he didn't acknowledge who he was before he shot. He didn't say drop the gun or anything like that. Well, if you've seen how fast this happened, and might you want to play that back real quick, how fast that happened, you ain't got time to say nothing.
No, you ain't got time. And he announced who he was
already
before the guy opened the door twice.
So, yeah, he already announced who he was, but it happened so fast, you ain't got time to say nothing.
Yeah.
And there is a peephole, so he could have looked at the peephole and saw it.
Boom,
So,
right there. That's when it shoots.
Open the door, he sees a gun. How fast that happened? What, 2 seconds, 3
At
seconds?
least I would even say that about a second.
About
by
a
the
second,
time he
right?
saw that gun, and his perception registered that this guy is, for him, he felt this guy was a threat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he acted on it. Now, was that within reason? That's hard to say. You know, that really is hard to say unless.
Again, we got to put our emotions aside and look at what the letter of the law says. Yeah, it's messed up either way, but that's why you don't like being, as an officer, you don't like being put in these types of situations, right? And now you got to look at, okay, now what does the letter of the law say? And like I said, each state's laws are different. Again, you have to look at your laws, and what the law says you can get with the charges on the officer in situations like this. Each state is different. Everybody knows Florida laws are very different than most 50 states, and it's not. Yeah, Tone said, why have an open carry law?
Well, Tone, I think you are focusing on whether or not it was legal for the guy to have a gun in the first place. That's not the issue, though.
That's not
the guy was within his right.
What's the intent? The officer, did he act as a reasonable officer would in a situation like this? Did he have the intent? Did this kid have the intent to shoot the officer?
Right. Well, we don't know that. We don't know that.
We don't know what his mindset is. Not, and again, it's not about the young man's mindset. It's about the officer's mindset.
Right.
Now, what is he?
Just because he didn't point the gun at the officer, we don't know if his mindset was whether or not he should shoot the officer. We don't know what he was thinking. We all only know that he had that gun in his hand when he opened the door of a domestic violence call, that the officer has a heightened alertness, awareness of the kind of call he's responding to. You know what I'm saying? Right. But doesn't look like he went to the wrong apartment. Okay, so let's squash that. You know what I'm saying? He went to the right apartment, the apartment that he was told to go to. Okay, now the question is, do we have to wait until you point that gun at us before we shoot? No. Okay, if we wait until you point that gun, it's too late. You already got to jump on me and you shot me. Right. Okay, so we don't have to wait for that, but we have to look at the totality of the circumstances and decide, is it reasonable for this officer to perceive you as a threat? I would say, yeah, I think it would be. You know what I'm saying? But it's still going to be up to a jury if it ends up going to court like that, right? You know what I'm saying?
100%. Again, this is very sad. I'm very sorry that this young man lost his life. But, we have to look at the letter of the law. Right, we have to put our emotions aside and understand what the case is about. It's not about him coming to the door with a gun. It's his constitutional right to do that. It's also the officer's right to defend himself, what he perceives as a threat.
As a threat, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And
I think Tone is stuck on whether or not it was legal for the citizen to have a gun, and that's not the issue. It was legal for him to have a gun. Okay. But you got to look at the circumstances of what that officer perceives if I'm going to a domestic violence call. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you being the primary suspect, at least reported as such, open that door with a gun in your hand. What is reasonable for me to think? You know what I'm saying?
Anthony White, he says, do you think the occupant of the apartment looked through the peephole? You know what? I don't think he did. Even if he did, I would say I would if I've had a chance to question him if he were alive. Like, dude, if you look through the people, then why didn't you holster up? Why didn't you say, okay, hold on, let me
be right there, gun away or something,
or something. If you look through the people, I would. Why go to the door then with the? I mean, but then the family says that he went to the cop went to the wrong address and so I guess somebody had been, knocking on his apartment door. It wasn't their apartment where the argument was taking place. It was a neighbor, a couple doors down or something other, and they assumed it was them since they're a young couple as well, that was having the argument.
See, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear
Yeah,
that. So
yeah. So again, I mean, if now you again, it's not about the right or wrong apartment. This is the situation he ended up in, right? Based on the information that was given to him, and the young man ended up coming to the door with the gun. Totally right. He can do that. I mean, but what's the end result of doing that?
I
It's
agree with Blackjack. I see that comment. If you have a weapon, there's a level of responsibility and the individual must have an awareness of. I agree with that.
100%.
And again, it's not. We say this over and over. It's not about the citizen whether or not he legally had a gun. He legally was able to have that gun, but you have to have common sense and know that if you know the cops are on the other side, I'm not going to open the door with a gun in my hand. Because I may think that what if that officer thinks I'm a threat? So I'm going to put the gun down. And again, Corey, if you feel you have to open the door with a gun in your hand, then you probably shouldn't be opening that door.
Yeah, facts. At the end of the day, if it goes to trial, you got to have you have to convince the jury that the kid was a threat.
Yeah, you do.
You got to convince the jury that beyond the
reasonable doubt. Actually, let me take it a little further.
Beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah, you have to prove that the officer thought he was a threat and why. Okay, it's not whether or not the kid was a threat. It's about whether or not the officer thought he was a threat and why the officer thought he was a threat. That's how I would think of it, right? Because we look, for all we know, this kid might have been just the innocent person, just happened to have his gun in his hand. We don't know. We don't know what, because he was shot now, so we don't know. You know what I'm saying? But you can also make the same speculation of, this kid might have been involved in something and was planning on doing some harm to the people on the other side of the door. We don't know that. Unfortunately, we don't know that. So this is a difficult one for me, Corey.
It is. And Tone said if he hadn't opened the door, then what?
He wouldn't have got shot.
He wouldn't.
Okay? He would have had enough time. He would have had enough time to put that gun down. I can tell you that. Okay, we wouldn't have forced our way in there unless we heard. You saw the officer listening on the outside the door when he approached. We wouldn't have forced our way in there under those circumstances unless we heard some commotion going on inside that created exigent circumstances, right? So if he wouldn't open the door, all right, you know what I would do in that situation? I would call my dispatch and say, hey, put a call inside the apartment, see if anybody will answer the phone or if anybody is out there in there. I would say, call them and tell them that I'm standing on the outside of the door, okay, and they need to come talk to me. Okay, that's what I would do. That's the first thing you would do if they refuse to open the door.
Yeah,
because you can't just walk away. You have a report of domestic violence in this apartment, so it ain't like, oh, I don't hear nothing, so let me walk away. You at least got to make it that way, right? You at least got to do your due diligence with trying to contact who's inside the apartment, right?
Yeah,
but
and hopefully in that time period now, Tone, okay, he doesn't open the door. All right, well, hopefully somewhere in this time, the right address does come out, right? You're getting more intel of, who's inside the house and, what are their names, what more information can be given to better handle the situation. So, don't open the door, let them figure out, man, are they at the right place? Right. But when I saw it,
or you could
that's the first
shout
thing.
through the door. Apparently, he did acknowledge that there was cops on the other side of the door. I didn't hear that, but that's what they're saying. But even if
I didn't hear that.
even if you don't open the door, I'm gonna talk to you through the door first.
Right.
Make sure I know who you are. And if I don't believe you're police, well, look, what could you do in that situation? You could call the police and say, I got somebody on the other side of our door claiming that they're police.
Why they at my residence?
They'll tell you whether or not a police officer is on the other side of your door. So there are numerous things you could do. I see your comment. I remember that case. I saw that case where that female was shot inside her home through the window. I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't agree with that at all. Them officers shouldn't have shot that woman at all. Okay.
No.
So yeah, I remember that case, and that was a bad thing where those cops shot that woman inside her house. I still don't understand what they saw under those circumstances that thought that they were an immediate threat or danger to themselves. So yeah, I remember that one.
I think, and the most trouble thing for me is like, okay, what if this guy didn't come to the door with the gun? But then, you got these, keyboard warriors out there who say, well, it's his constitutional right to come to the door. Yeah, but when does common sense prevail?
Right. It ain't all about whether or not something is legal.
Right. Right. I mean, just because it's right, you said, just because it's, your right to do so doesn't make it right to do it at that moment. Like,
right.
You got to think, I know if I come into contact with law enforcement right now, I'm always say, hey, man, just give you heads up. I am carrying, right? I carry concealed a lot. I'm going to let you know right up front, and no, I'm not going to put, keep my hands out of my pocket. Like I say, you come to my door, I'm always going to be strapped. But if you tell me you law enforcement or you're some type of, you're not a threat, then, hey, hold on a second and I'll put it up. But to come to the door like this, what are you expecting to happen? Like the writing's all on the wall as soon as you see that.
What I'll say is when you come to the door like that with a gun in your hand, you too are taking a risk that someone may perceive you as a threat and
100%.
shoot you. So if
my
advice,
he's not in the eyes of some of these people, he's not a threat because the weapon is pointed down.
Yeah, to some people they would say that. In my opinion, as an officer, no, you are a threat if you got a gun in your hand, because I know that all it takes is a split second for you to raise that gun up and shoot me. Okay, so the fact of whether or not I think you're a threat, just because you don't have the gun pointed at me, no, I will consider you a threat whether you got the gun pointed at me or not until I find otherwise. Okay, so my advice in the future, Corey, to our viewers, just know if you think you want to open the door with a gun in your hand, you are taking a risk of what the person on the other side perceives of you. They may perceive you as a threat and shoot you. Okay, shoot you before you shoot them. If you feel there is that kind of danger on the other side of your door to where you have to have a gun, don't open the door. Call the police. Okay, don't put yourself in a situation where someone may falsely perceive you. Okay, they may falsely perceive you as a threat. So call the police. You know what I'm saying? There are a number of things you could do to where this doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? But I would not encourage you to, especially if you know the cops are on the other side. I would never encourage you to open the door with your gun in your hand. Corey, you made a point if your gun was holstered. Now that's different because your gun is holstered. But even then, don't put your hand on it. Well, I don't know if you're gonna draw it. Right. Just holster it and don't go near it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and definitely go near. And that's the thing. If it's a holster, it's a whole different story, right? Yeah. But when you have it in your hand, like I said, you don't have to be fully extended to pull to pull the trigger. It could be waist level, and he can still get the shot off before you can get your gun out of the holster.
I hear you, badass. I understand that comment. Facts. Have to go home before you. Yeah,
that. Well, yeah, 100%. Like I said, at the end of the day, the officer wants to go home, right? And you see how fast these incidents happen, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of people are putting, emotion into it, and like, wait, these shootings happen so fast before your brain can register to say drop the weapon. Your training kicks in, and you automatically go to the ready, and get your shot off, right? Again, it's sad, but like one lawyer I was listening to, I mean, he posed that question. He said, well, what if they're both right? He was right in coming to the door because he didn't know who was at his door. Of course, I find that hard.
But I would argue that's not smart. Don't come to the door. Don't open the door with a gun in your hand.
I mean, whether you believe there was a cop at your door or not, or like you said, Mike, early, he might have had headphones in and couldn't hear, or that Jesus love you that said that. And he didn't hear it, but you got a peephole. Why don't you look out your peephole? But at the end of the day, could they both have been right? He's got a right to defend himself. The other guy had a right to defend himself as well, because maybe he didn't know who was on the other side of the door. Right? We don't know if he heard.
We'll never know. We'll never know what kind of person that kid was, because we will never know what his intention was when he had that gun in his hand in the first place. We'll never know that. We only hear what his family says, and of course his family is going to be upset and feels like it shouldn't have happened. It didn't have to go down that way. Well, the officer didn't have to. Let me play the devil's advocate. Or the officer didn't have to shoot him, but he did. Now, was it a reasonable mind frame that officer? What would your mind frame be if you were responding to a domestic violence call as a police officer? Would your mind frame be relaxed? Would it be heightened? What would it be? Would you be ready to shoot somebody if you had to? You know what I'm saying? If your mind frame is not like that,
you can't again, like you said earlier, Mike, you can't go into these situations, lackadaisical. Your head has to be on the swivel. You go on. Domestic violence is one of the most dangerous calls that an officer can go on. And Tony asked another good question. If this was a traffic stop, would you shoot if the suspect had a CCR? But if he went for that gun or didn't make any threatening moves, and after I told him not to, yeah. Again, I tell you, like I told you my situation, Mike. No, I didn't shoot. Yeah, I didn't shoot a guy. And the guy picked the gun up. He picked the gun up from the passenger seat, Tone, and tried to show me that the gun wasn't loaded. Right, but like I said, the only reason why he didn't get shot is because he had the barrel of the gun facing away from me. Right now,
but Corey,
what if I couldn't tell which way the gun was pointing, and I shot him? Would I have been justified?
Yeah, if the gun, just because the barrel wasn't pointed at you, would you have been justified in shooting him? You probably would be, because he grabbed that gun after you told him not to grab that gun.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's important. That he grabbed that gun after you told him not to. So what can you infer from that? Just because he refused your order to grab that gun, you can infer that, well, he must be trying to shoot me then if he grabs that gun anyway, regardless of what I'm saying. But Tone, I think a traffic stop in that situation is a whole lot different, I think, than this situation where this guy opened the door as a result of police contacting him for a domestic violence call. You know what I'm saying? As a domestic violence call, I'm going to be ready for you to try to do something, or I'm going to be ready for your emotions in this call. If I have to shoot you, I'm going to be mentally prepared to do such. or if I don't have to shoot you, I'm going to be mentally prepared to do that. Now, this is tough though, you know, Corey, because in today's climate, you know, they tend to, you know, sometimes they go just because the citizen feels one way. They want to, you know, charge the officer. This officer may get charged. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, above all, it's within reason, I think, of this officer to have a mind frame that this person was a threat. That's me. Somebody else might have a different view on it. It's one of those things where you can't say definitively in this situation, because none of us, with the exception of me and Corey, at some point have been in this kind of situation. I have, and fortunately, I didn't shoot. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have time to even draw him a weapon. All right. So it's one of those things. So you just don't know. This will go either way, Corey.
Yeah, again, I'm always going to fall back to, you know, the letter of law, what the law says. You know, is there enough to bring charges up against him other than, you know, hey, well, he didn't give the guy enough time to put the weapon up. It's like that's not how it works. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Like, I'm not going to give you time, because that time is my life. Right?
Yeah. That's where we're putting it.
I don't know what your intentions are. You have your legal term, brandishing your firearm, right? Even though it's legal for you to have, I still don't know what your intentions are. Okay, I know I wouldn't feel threatened if you had it holstered as an officer. No, because I've stopped and conversated with plenty of people. If you down here in Virginia, everybody has open carry down here. You know what I mean? So you're interacting with people that, you know, have their weapons holstered all the time. But when it's not holstered, yeah, you may not have no. I have to think about what your intentions are. Well, why is this guy have that gun unholstered like that? What's he up to, right? Because that's not what reasonable people do, right? Reasonable people, law-abiding citizens, the Second Amendment gurus, will leave it holstered unless they feel something threatened or you know, getting ready to stop a threat, or have their weapons holstered. Going to your door like this within your own home, again, you can't even look at it like that. That's irrelevant. Like Mike said, it's about the officer's mindset.
Yeah, because we don't know what the citizen's mindset was. For all we know, the citizen's mindset could be, I'm not going to jail. I'm not going to get arrested for domestic violence. I'm going to take this guy out before he takes me out. We don't know. That could have been his mindset. We don't know. Tone, good comment. It's 50-50. I think it is. We could be going back and forth all day. Badass, that's a good comment about what if it was your wife or your family member that was the cop on the other side. Something to think about.
Yeah. What if it you do you not want your wife or significant other coming home? You want them to come home, right? Yeah, we want this kid to live. We want you can walk around your house with the gun if you legally can have a gun. Absolutely, walk around your house with the gun. But when somebody like the police comes to the front door, put that dang on gun up, right? And until you can figure out what's going on, and they can figure out what's going on, and then have at it, pull it back out, walk around your house with your gun. But don't come to the door with the gun. So it's sad. No matter how you want to break this down, y'all, this is sad. And hopefully, this gets resolved. I think the officer was justified. I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate text messages on this, but I think he acted as a reasonable officer, because it happened so quick in the environment, in the call, the nature of the call that he was going into. I'm going to say that it was justified, and we'll probably have to follow this one, Mike, because I'd be interested to see what the outcome of this one is going to be. because you have to prove that the guy on the other side was not a threat. But you're not me. You're not.
Have a lot of opinions on that. That's the thing. You know
Well, yeah, you have a lot of, and then that's why you got. Okay, so what does the law say? Like I read earlier, for Florida, through their Florida jury standard or Florida standard jury structure in criminal cases. These are the guidelines that juries have to follow when trying to convict an officer of such charge. And again, like I said, the deputy was justified in using deadly force if he reasonably believed that such force was necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself. Key word right there, great bodily harm to himself. So could he articulate that he felt threatened?
That's a good one, Tone. I see you comment on that drowning thing. Personally, for me, if someone goes into that water and they knew they shouldn't have, and they start struggling, if I'm an officer and I feel my swimming, mentality is not strong, I'm not a strong swimmer, I'm not going to jump in that water after you and try to save you because I might drown myself. So I'm definitely not going to do that. I will do what I can to get somebody there who can save you, but that's it. I'm not going to jump in that water immediately after you because you decide to go and break the law. Because now I'm putting myself to where I likely may not survive myself. You know what I'm saying? So, to be honest with you, you're going to be swimming and flopping for a minute until I can get somebody there to go get you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. I appreciate it. This was a good one.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. Let us know what you think about this video. Drop us a comment down below. Whether you think the officer was justified or not. Did he act as a reasonable officer? All right, be respectful in your comments. We know all you keyboard warriors out there don't like the police, hate the police. No matter what they do, right or wrong, you still hate what the police stand for. Mike and I are not terrorists because we're both law enforcement. But we have to look at the letter of the law. We have to be able to look at, did the officer feel threatened? Was he threatened? We have to look at what their mindset was. Again, Mike and I can both roll up on a situation like this, and he and I will probably respond differently. We don't know. But the bottom line is, when the police come to your door, don't come to your door with a gun. You can carry the gun all you want in the house, but that's the bottom line. That's the big takeaway.
That's facts, yeah.
Let us know what your takeaway is. So if you like the content of this video, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button for us. Remember to always stay calm, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. That's your end objective after any interaction with law enforcement, to be able to move on safely. Or if you have to go to jail, doggone it, you gotta go to jail, whatever. But thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to wrap this one up for tonight. We'll be back next week with another good video to break down. If you got one that you would like for us to break down, hit us up at brothas-in-law21@gmail.com, and we'll get the video on. Don't forget to head over to the merch shop, pick up a t-shirt for us to help support the Brother-in-Law channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Got 20% discount going on right now on all merch. So head on over and help us out. All right, Mike, final words, my brother.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Tone, Badass, Jesus love you. I think I saw Stacy on there.
Yeah.
Goat. Appreciate you joining us. Appreciate your comments. So
Anthony White,
like I say, you may agree with us. Blackjack, yeah, I see you.
Yeah, and everybody on Facebook, thank you for watching tonight. Yeah, again, like I said, next Thursday, same time, same sandbox, 8:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all be blessed. Have a great and safe weekend. And peace out.
Peace out.